I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, we did a video the other day on Putin sending a clear message to Macron, the EU, and most likely the United States as well, that that Russia cannot be courted away from the alliance that it is building with China. In other words, this partnership that Russia has with China is Russia's top foreign policy and geopolitical objective at the moment and going forward. And even despite overtures that Macron has made towards Russia in order to try to move them away from China, Putin was pretty much sending the message, stop it, it's not going to work. Now we have Sergei Lavrov at the UN General Assembly meeting, writing an article titled "World at a Crossroads and a System of International Relations for the Future," which pretty much reiterates what Putin was telling Macron, the EU, as far as Russia and China are concerned. Is that correct, Alexander?
That is exactly right, Alex. The whole point it was, again, to make absolutely crystal clear that the alliance between China and Russia is unbreakable, and that the Russians will not be weaned away from that alliance with China by the overtures that are being made to them by the West, first and foremost by Emmanuel Macron, but also by, of course, other Western governments, including some members of the United States government like Donald Trump. The key paragraph reads as follows: "Our American colleagues are persistently trying to mobilize all of their foreign partners to contain Russia and China. Simultaneously, they do not conceal their wish to sow discord between Moscow and Beijing and undermine multilateral alliances and regional integration projects in Eurasia and Asia Pacific that are operating outside of the US oversight." Now, notice again the careful choice of words. Wish to sow discord between Moscow and Beijing. And notice also undermine multilateral alliances. That is the first implicit admission by a Russian leader that the relationship between China and Russia is actually an alliance. It's an alliance which is now attracting other countries in the Eurasian world, the Central Asian states, Belarus, and ultimately Iran. But he's making it very clear they do not conceal their wish to sow discord between Moscow and Beijing. So he's made it very clear the Russians understand exactly what the Americans are up to. When I say the Americans, I mean obviously some Americans, because of course a lot of other Americans still want to pursue confrontation with Russia. And of course, when he talks about our American colleagues are persistently trying to mobilize all of their foreign partners, that is a reference fairly obviously to people like Emmanuel Macron. So the Russians are saying, I'm sorry, we hear what we say, we don't trust you, we don't believe you, you don't sincerely want better relations with us. All you are doing is trying to sow discord between us and the Chinese, and we're not going to play with it. We're not going to fall for it. So that was what Lavrov said.
So he said the word "they," and you mentioned that there are a lot of people in America that are looking to sow discord between China and Russia. Rightly so, in the geopolitical game. You know, they see the alliance forming, and you know, the strongest, biggest superpower, the United States, is going to rightly try to protect its position. So It's going to try to sow discord between Russia and China.
Yes,
makes sense. Macron playing up to the Americans' wish is
Yes.
going to go along with it and try to do his best to wean Russia away from China. We mentioned in our first video on this topic, Putin's speech that he gave, that it was Trump, and we went through the history of it, but we came up to today with the Trump presidency. It was Trump who saw what was happening between China and Russia and the damage that Clinton, Bush, and especially Obama had done to the relationship between the U.S. and Russia, and essentially pushed Russia for good to an alliance with China. Trump saw that, and Trump wanted to reverse gears and actually start having dialogue with Russia so that he could prevent this alliance from solidifying, in essence, because it was already on its way.
Yes.
Was Lavrov speaking to Trump in any way, shape, or form, trying to tell him, forget all the Russiagate nonsense, forget all the entire witch hunt and everything that they, the deep state and all these guys, tried to do? We are going to be with China, but there's still some room to figure things out.
Yes, I mean, what
Lavrov is a skilled diplomat. There's no doubt about that.
Lavrov is an immensely skilled diplomat, and to answer your question, Donald Trump was at the United Nations, and Lavrov's comments are undoubtedly, in part, addressed to Trump. It is again a call for dialogue between Russia and the United States. He talks about arms control. He talks about moves to ease tensions. He sets out what the various problems between Russia and the United States are. He's saying to Donald Trump, it's as much in your interests as ours that we improve our relations with each other. But that's not going to come at the price of us sacrificing our relation with our alliance with the Chinese. It serves us too well now, and too much damage has been done, not by you, but by your predecessors and by other people in the US government, for us to trust the United States with our long-term security and our economic future in ways which we might once have been prepared to do in the past.
What's Trump's play here, Alexander? I mean, he's now going up against a very formidable opponent in the form of Russia and China. Trump has made no secret of the fact that he gets along with Xi. He's made no secret of the fact that he would like to open up dialogue with Russia. He's been just grilled and just, completely hit over the head, with this whole Russia thing. And even with the trade talks with China. I mean, they don't let him do anything. They don't let him get anything done.
No.
But there is a play here for Trump to create some sort of framework.
Yes.
Where these three superpowers do compete.
No.
But on a level or a more level playing field, especially, the United States and China. What do you think Trump's play is here? Because, to go up against Russia and China at this stage doesn't seem like it's a very smart move.
No, it's a very bad move. I mean, it would be a disaster if the United States is catapulted into an arms race with the Chinese and the Russians. Then, as I said, the United States may be a richer country than either China or Russia. It is not a richer country, or it doesn't have the industrial and raw material resources. It cannot match the industrial and raw material resources that those two countries, China and Russia, have together in aggregate. That is the key point to understand. That is, I think, something that Donald Trump, who, by the way, is a businessman, and as a businessman perhaps has a better grasp of these things than some of these geopolitical thinkers in the Washington think tanks, whose background is in humanities and social sciences. I think he grasps this. Now, what he needs to do, what the United States needs to do, is it should put aside any idea at the moment that China and Russia can be a split from each other, and he should work towards improving relations with both. Now, difficult to do with China at the moment, because he's locked in a trade war with China, and I think part of his electoral base wants him to continue with that trade war. And his comments at the UN General Assembly against China were extremely strong. But he could work to improve relations with Russia. It's still an option. And even if that isn't going to end the alliance between China and Russia, an easing of tensions in Europe and the Middle East, which is what an improvement in relations with Russia might achieve, would buy more economic and political space for the United States. That ought to be his policy. And I think, left to himself, that would be his policy. The trouble is he's surrounded by people, not just by people in the administration, but by people in the deep state, in the intelligence services, in the military industrial complex, in Congress, in the media, who don't want him to do that. They still want to pursue this pointless feud with Russia, which is proving so disastrous for the United States, and which has brought the United States into this very dangerous position in which the Chinese and the Russians are now in alliance with each other.
Would it be fair to say, Alexander, that Trump would rather deal with and compete with, once again, I say compete with on a level playing field, with China and with Russia, and just kind of squeeze out the EU? I mean, it seems that he doesn't have much time for the EU. I mean, if you were going to look at Trump's interests, it seems that he's just much more interested in dealing with China and Russia than he really is with dealing with the EU.
Well, he doesn't take the EU seriously at all. Now, can I just, changing not the subject, but the emphasis a little. I mean, we're all hearing an awful lot about this telephone conversation between Donald Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine. One aspect of that conversation, which isn't getting much attention, is the utterly withering comments Trump makes about the Europeans and about Angela Merkel in particular. I mean, he doesn't take the Europeans seriously. He takes the Chinese very seriously. He takes the Russians very seriously. He sees these are two strong countries led by strong leaders, and he takes them seriously. He doesn't take anyone in Europe seriously, and he certainly doesn't take the EU seriously. For Donald Trump, the two great powers, other than the United States, are China and Russia. And can I say he is right?
And India as well, I would say. It seems like he's also taking India a lot more seriously than he does the EU.
Yes,
in many aspects.
Right. I don't think India is yet a great power, but it is certainly a major power. I mean, it's got a large population. It's got nuclear weapons. It's had, up till recently, a fast-growing economy. It's having a few problems now. So I think he also calculates or says to himself, if I'm not able to split the Chinese and the Russians from each other, then developing a strong relationship with India, which is a big country, but which has had traditionally bad relations with China, is going to be a good idea, and it will help me to balance my relations with the Chinese. The trouble with that policy is, of course, the Indians will play it for all it's worth, and it will make the Chinese, for their part, rely even more on Russia. And in fact, since we've just talked about the Chinese, can I say that, of course, the Chinese have now said something about all of these overtures, because China's number 3, Mr. Li Zhuxan, who is the president of the Chinese parliament, has just gone to Moscow. He's number 3 in the Chinese leadership. He's a member of the standing committee of the Politburo of the Chinese Communist Party. And he had a meeting in Moscow with Putin. And over the course of that meeting, he also had this to say: the United States has adopted a policy of dual containment of China and Russia, and has attempted to drive a wedge between us. But we have seen through that ploy, and we have not fallen into that trap. The main reason for that is that our relations rest on a solid foundation of mutual trust. Now, the point that Li Shan is making, and notice that he talks about these two words, containment, the moves towards India that we were talking about, are part of the US policy, the Trump policy of containing China. So that's what that's all about. He's also concerned about, obviously, the American attempt to create a wedge, as he calls it, between China and Russia. But the very strong point he makes at the end is that the relations between China and Russia rest on a solid foundation of mutual trust. So the Chinese and the Russians trust each other. Neither country trusts the United States. That's the point he's making.
All right, we will leave it at that. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below. Click on the notifications bell to make sure you get notifications every time we publish a new video. And follow us on iTunes and Soundcloud to get an audio podcast copy of this show. The link is in the description box down below. And you'll also find links to PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribe Star. Please donate to the Duran. It really helps us out a lot. It helps keep this channel going and helps keep this channel growing. And Alexander, something else that helps keep this channel growing is when you purchase magic mugs and magic shirts from our Duran shop, and you have a magic mug right there.
Indeed so. And in fact, I can tell you, because Li Shan and Putin, of course, met in the Kremlin, and they were drinking from mugs which had this very symbol on them, which is the symbol of the Russian Federation. They met, by the way, on Wednesday, the 25th of September. I don't think I mentioned the date, but that was when they met, and they would have drunk tea from mugs like this because, of course, the Chinese are great tea drinkers, and Vladimir Putin is known to be a great tea drinker also. Russians generally drink tea rather than coffee. And, of course, I also drink tea from my mugs. I've been drinking at the moment Assam tea from India, as it happens. We mentioned India. It's a very, very delicious dark tea, which you drink with milk, and it looks beautiful and tastes wonderful when it's drunk from a mug like this. 15 ounces, beautiful porcelain body, enormously stylish, an amazing mug, the best tea mug or coffee mug, because my wife drinks coffee, I've had. Our mugs are phenomenal, and they're not the only phenomenal things we have. We've got these wonderful T-shirts like the one I'm wearing now, with our own Duran double-headed eagle there, which is different from the Russian one. It points to east and west. It shows the so this is just what we've been doing on this program. In fact, we've been talking about the United States, Russia, India, and China. It gives you an idea of the global scope of our channel, that we're able to cover geopolitics in all of these places. And we are able to do this because we drink from mugs like this, and we have this badge on our shirts. And what great shirts they are. 100% cotton, beautifully dyed, beautifully cut. They fit marvelously. My wife loves seeing me in them. We've got shirts, short-sleeved T-shirts like this. We've got long-sleeved T-shirts, which are great for going outdoors or when it's cold or wet weather, as we often get in England. We've got polo shirts, which are extremely stylish and elegant. My wife loves seeing me in them. We've got hoodies. We've got hats. We got stickers. Alex has been refreshing our entire product line. Our competitors are incredibly envious of our products and are trying unsuccessfully to copy them. They're churning out grossly inferior copies that are to be avoided at all costs. Our customers who bought them are enthusiastic about them. The feedback we're getting is tremendous. So help the Duran, help yourself, go to our shop, buy these great things. Alex will tell you how to do it.
Just go to the Duran shop, theduranshop.com. The link is in the description box down below. Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.